Well, now I want to go to Steve Sherrill, who does our What Do You Want to Talk About segment. So, Steve, what do you want to talk about?
Well, good evening, Jim, and everybody else. In my area, it's been excruciatingly hot, and it has sent me to the train room where I have air conditioning. Um, I ran a lot of trains, but every once in a while I sit down at my chair and I think about maybe I should take this layout down or modify it, do something dramatic. I have no waterfront on my layout. Maybe I need a waterfront. Certainly, we have covered uh, buildings on waterfronts. Tom has done a good job on that, and others. Um, I don't have many bridges. Maybe I need to do some more bridges. I got plenty of mountains, though. Recently, at Al Judy's show, I purchased 3 buildings that were completed. Nice builds from a modeler who had passed away. And so I brought those home. I selected these buildings because I thought they would go on my layout. But when I got home, I thought, well, I've already got a nice building. Where am I going to put these other nice buildings? So, sometimes getting something and doing something different just creates another problem for you. But I seem to have overcome a lot of those, and I've placed the buildings on, and I will look at them now for a couple of months and make sure that's where I want to keep them. I believe that many of us go through this same type of situation where maybe our interest in trains fluctuates up and down. Um, After a train show, we're kind of high on our model railroad, and then it kind of goes down when other things become more interesting. But when it's hot like this, and you can go in and run those trains in the air conditioning, you really can have a good time. I have a son-in-law who is very interested in trains. He's a master electrician, and he wants to build a layout, but does not have the room now. So which way I'm going with him, micro layout. So maybe I can talk him into that. Hey, maybe I could even give him one and push him a little bit. But then I'll have to answer to my daughter if I push too hard. So I just, we all face these type of decisions, as little as they really are. What are we going to do with our railroads? How do we have fun operating? How do we have communication with other modelers? We're lucky we have this Zoom. We also have other forms of communication through our computers. We can communicate with people anywhere in the world now. I was talking to a modeler this morning in Australia. The only problem with communicating with that part of the world, you don't know if it's night or day, Tuesday or Wednesday, But all those things are overcome. But I think that we need some kind of a direction. I believe in what we're doing with our trains. I like to refer to people that I know that are doing something. Like for instance, Greg is getting ready for an open house. He's encountering things that he has not completed in the past, and now he is correcting that. I'm sure there are other people in the same situation. When you make a commitment, you find out that you have to put new scenery down. You have to put a tree here. You have to finish a building there. You want to be ready when you have these open houses and people visiting. I was lucky to have Ian Tengus come to my house and visit. Now, when you have people like that come to your layout, you're really concerned about, gee, is my layout any good? What's he going to think? He's going to go back and see other people. But it really doesn't make any difference. We're all just modelers out here trying to have a good time. Some of us are very good. Some of us are great. I think it's wonderful that we have this Zoom that we can all get together and share, what we've learned, what we're learning, what we're going to learn. I've been doing this for 70 some years now, and I'm just amazed at the development and the abilities that people have demonstrated. It's just gone where I could never realize. So I just wonder, are other modelers experiencing this type of situation? I mean, you've got to have layouts that are pretty much finished. Do you ever think about changing parts, certain areas? Let me know what you think.
Yeah, Steve, you mentioned that I'm getting ready for an open house here. Our division is having a layout tour next month, and I agreed to be on it, even though I haven't really run my layout for 2 years. So I had a lot of cleaning to do, cleaning track, cleaning cobwebs, cleaning dust. And as I was doing all that, I ran into some areas that I had always planned to get to because they didn't look finished, but a layout's never really finished. But now I'm getting to some of those areas and finishing them off. I still have a lot of work to do, and it won't be done in time for the open house, but it got me started again.
Well, open houses are great, and really, you don't have to have your layout finished or complete. In fact, people like to see what you're doing, what you're going to do. When we have these open houses, you always talk about, well, I'm going to be doing this shortly, and I'm going to be building that, and it's just a great time to show off what you do have and share with other modelers. Open houses, they do inspire you to do some work on your layout, which is good. It's like somebody sticking you with a little pin in your butt and saying, let's get moving.
You can't. And what I'm hoping that comes from it is I'm going to be in the middle of putting down more landscaping that I never got around to doing. And so hopefully when people show up, I can get some more tips and some more ideas from them, because I won't be done with it.
and some of the landscaping you're going to put down is probably an improvement over the materials that you were going to put down.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I built it in the mid 90s, and yeah, they've made a lot of advances in many things since then.
Yeah, but you've got a nice layout. The pictures that I've seen, maybe we'll see some more, but yeah, I mean, I just think that it's really great that you did volunteer. If you did, they may have drafted you, because they have a tendency to do that sometimes, some of the divisions. But I just think that, it's great to have that. I actually communicated with Tom some today. We talked a little bit about Tom Farrell. I don't know whether he's,
I'm
can
here.
communicate. Oh, hi, Tom. Okay.
Yeah.
Tom, I was always wondering about your layout, how you designed it. Did you have a prototype railroad in mind?
No, the only thing I can say about my new layout is it's really building on the previous 7 I had from beginning as a child, and I just have a different approach to layout design. A lot of people go to great detail to determine where turnouts and towns and switches. I basically wanted a maximum 24-inch reach. It's something I learned, sort of like a modular type reach to it, so I'm not contorting 48 inches across to get to trains. So I just had these basic parameters, and created the bench work first, and then I fit the trains to the bench work, which is complete opposite what most people do, and the scenery too. what I did want to say is I had this epiphany today after talking to you this morning. I was online and I saw a fall themed layout, with the red and yellows and the oranges. And I'd already planned tentatively to have a winter scene on my layout in the mountain area. And the axiom, my railroad, my rules, I determined the other half of my layout is going to be the autumn, the fall, and separating the autumn and fall is going to be a winter scene, which is not quite in the order of things, but again, my railroad, my rules. So, but I am going to feature, probably won't happen until the other side of the layout for at least another year, but in my head, it's going to be the fall scene, so sometimes it's good. I've taken a 8-day, 9-day leave of being in the train room because of my replacement knee. And it's given me a lot to just sit around and think about, and talking to guys like Steve is fun when you're on the couch all day. It's good to broaden your horizons with other opinions, so anyway, I don't mean to ramble.
No, I want you to talk because, you're an outstanding modeler, and I treasure, what you have to say. I think that there's a lot of new modelers out there who kind of follow what some of the more experienced and better modelers, their input. I know we can look back and see some of the great modelers in our day many years ago, and we kind of, try to follow some of their stuff that they had. I always think, well, what would their layouts be like today? Would it be as good as the ones we have? Would it be better? Would they, just where would they be in the modeling world? And you can think any one of the famous people that is well known, and you can ask that question. I've always wondered what it would be like to see what their layouts would look like today. I can look at some of the layouts that from the past greats, and they're very impressive, and you could learn a lot from
them. Well, I think, for example, what Greg Cassidy is going to do, I hadn't realized that his layout was originally constructed in the 90s, but the opportunity to go back and refresh or update or finish areas. I mean, I joke with Jim Kello that these I did over 50 shows, and but these shows drive me to get work completed and move the railroad along. And sometimes if you don't have a week or 2-week pause, you don't dream up that the other side of the layout would be kind of neat if it was the autumn scene, or in Greg's case, he's looking at it with open eyes that, he hadn't seen certain areas. It's such detail, for 20 years. And now he's got a impetus to get his layout up, in his mind up to speed or presentable in his, to the degree that he wants to now. So, deadlines are good sometimes. and you don't need to, go ahead.
Well, Greg actually had Worcester, Maryland as a prototype railroad to kind of get some input from. And he lived in that area where he could visit that area and see some of the real life scenes. So that is a tremendous advantage. He had prototype lettering he could use, prototype buildings, that he could scratch build. I freelance everything, so I have to copy or pick up, bits and pieces from what I like.
Well, you know what, Steve? It's funny you mentioned that, because one of my updates that I just did last night, when I built the layout, it was supposed to represent the area Western Maryland went through Hancock, in the Maryland area. And there was a big orchard area, lots of fruit, mostly apples. And so the first thing I put on my layout was a warehouse and a cooling house for apples to be delivered to. But I just made up a name on it. I put, I think, Allegheny Apple Company or something, because, I hadn't done much research. This was all new to me. Well, I've hated that sign every time I look at it because it's just generic and it doesn't really set the area. So I went online a couple days ago, did some research, found out that there was an Andrew Cohill that really brought together all the orchards in the Hancock area and made it into one of the largest fruit producing and especially apple producing areas in the Mid-Atlantic. And he had a big cooling house that everything was brought to. So I made a new sign, A. Cohill Cooling House, Hancock, Maryland, put that on the building. It actually follows the pattern of one of his billboards. And so now I feel a lot better because I actually planted that scene by something that I had researched instead of before, when I didn't really know much about what I wanted to have done. And I just made up a name.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to go through Hancock practically every week. My parents moved to Berkeley Springs in the 60s. And so the only way to get there, of course, was either Route 9, or later on you got 70. But you had to go, across the bridge and past the sand mine and up that way. And of course, the sand mine had that little, I think it was an 18-inch or 2-foot railroad that ran down into the pits and hauled the sand out.
Yep, all the sand to make the glass.
That's right, the glass factory. And so I got to the stations and stuff down in there in Berkeley Springs. So, it was kind of nice to do that. I didn't want to model that part, though. I was more southern part of West Virginia, 1947, where there was more mountains and tree-covered hillsides. I thought that was what I wanted. And I could also see that in Maryland when it went across the bridge at Harper's Ferry. So,
you see the view from 10,000 feet on model railroading that we need to remind ourselves of is look how dynamic this hobby can be, where you can go off into prototypical. If you have a railroad that's just my railroad, my rules, at any time I can go back and say, okay, I'm going to change all my goofy signs from Gilligan's Island to real names. You have the ability to change your railroad and update it at any time you like, and you can go down prototypical modeling ideas. You can look at, the only layouts I used to see were layouts that I would see at these big shows, like in Indianapolis or Pittsburgh or Chicago. But the new dynamic for me is visiting home layouts. It's, you pick up ideas that, I hadn't thought of that before. You take a quick photo, file that away. It's just such a dynamic hobby. And that's the message we need to get out to young and old modelers, that it's not a static hobby. It's a dynamic hobby in any direction you want to take it. And, having these little conversations like with you this morning, Steve, that's a wonderful aspect that is, I believe, unlike any other hobby, because we're very fortunate to have these members and these, these resources at our disposal. Yeah. So
well, you're correct there, Tom. I think that when you talk to modelers who don't have layouts, and they don't know really, they have a direction, but they're really not sure. And as a more experienced modeler, I can certainly tell them some of the pluses and minuses in layout construction, what works for me. When you get to be 70 years old, reaching over 24 inches, ooh, that hurts back.
That's exactly. Exactly what I was talking about, you know.
What you build at 50 hurts like hell at 70.
Yeah.
So, you know, and those are things you can just share with the young, you know. But I have noticed that there does seem to be some younger modelers coming up, and that's really good to see, I think.
Well, the converse is the younger modelers. As soon as I get things under control with my layout, I fully intend to get invested in 3D printing, you know, just to fool around with it. There's a lot of people think this is, you know, one of the big futures of the hobby, and I embrace that as well. And like I said, it's just such a dynamic hobby. You can go off any direction you want. That's the message we need to get out there.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. Well, listen, guys, I hate to do this, but we got to kind of close it up so that we can do the after show before Martin goes to bed on us.
right. Talk to you next week.
So, Steve, thank you so very much for doing this again this evening. Your segments are so popular. And the reason why is you just start a great discussion every week. So thank you so much for doing it.